All right. If at first you don't succeed, here we are at episode 15. We're going to call this one Be Our Guest. Be Our Guest.
We'll do this again.
Put our service to the test. If you guys are watching on YouTube for the first time, we have our first guest, Mr. William Grass. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming to the episode. So, just a little lead in about Will.
Ready for the outtakes, by the way.
It's priceless. Will is a 31-year veteran of the City of Las Vegas Fire Department, where he retired a few years ago as hazmat director. Is that correct?
Hazmat coordinator.
Coordinator. You know, you say director, I say coordinator. Either.
All the same.
Since then, he's moved back up to Northern Nevada, where he has a very nice collection in his personal home of Irish whiskey, which we'll talk about in some of the episode. Can you tell us about some of that?
Yeah, no, I got into collecting Irish whiskey, sourcing Irish whiskey. Collection means you don't open it. Everything I got's open. So, after my first trip to Ireland, actually, I got into whiskey for the first time, and one of those deals, once you get started, you kind of fall down the rabbit hole, and I did, and I've been buying whiskey ever since.
So, are you a whiskey speculator, or do you specifically buy it just to drink it?
I buy it to
enjoy
drink.
It.
I do not. Right now, I can't call it collection. In my selection, I do not have a bottle that is unopened.
Well, do you have any particular feelings about speculators? For people that
Arctics.
Yeah, trying to be nice.
So,
I'm not a fan. They drive the market up.
I've been a collector my whole life.
I've
been a collector my whole life, but I collect, stuff that doesn't. Different stuff,
Right.
So I vowed myself years ago, just if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to open it. I'm going to use it.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yeah, I guess there's a place for them, just like anything. Everybody collects something. If you want to collect Irish whiskey.
So that being said, is there one you covet, like you will not share with anybody at all, or is everything?
No.
Everything in your bar.
Everything.
Just this one right here.
Yeah, just that one right there. That has already been opened.
Yes.
No,
sure,
I don't.
One that's
there are some that I'm very. Not everybody gets everything. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But every bottle that I've ever had has been shared with my friends at some point. There are just none that I would say, Chris, you come over and go, man, that 32-year-old looks pretty nice. All right, well, let's have a sip. I'm not going to pour whiskey. I'm not going to pour you half a glass. But we'll get a chance to try it, so you can say that you've done that. So
you're not making old fashions out of 32-year-old whiskey.
No, not that I'm aware of. There have been a few of them blackout nights where Lord knows what.
The worst thing ever was having people come into McMullen's and ordering the Pogue 51, which is, at the time was one of our most expensive whiskeys we had at about $300 a shot?
I believe so.
Back then. And then just throwing it back like it's a shot of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
It's just so disheartening.
It's a crime, but you're moving it. You know what I mean? And McMullen's had the same thing happen. They have a significantly more expensive bottle in there now that they opened.
Which one is that one?
And somebody,
is it the Middleton?
The Middleton Fred the 8th from K. And
which
it's a very expensive bottle.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, that is the one that's the oldest. No, not the oldest.
No, you're thinking of the Silent Distillery ones. No, this is a lesser expensive one of those, but it's a fairly rare bottle, and I think we are selling a shot of that. It's not cheap, $700 a shot.
Oof.
Wow.
It's expensive.
Hello.
And a guy came in and said, "I want."
You gotta make sure you get your points for that one. Huh?
Yeah, I want 2 shots of your best whiskey. The bartender explained to him that, hey, this is it. Don't care. I want it. And then they did exactly that, and then backed it up with, I want a shot of your next most expensive whiskey, which was a Middleton product. And
no way, really?
Did it again, yeah.
Hey, could I get a Coke bed for that?
Yeah.
You leave the bar and you've spent $2,200 on 4 drinks.
I had a guy,
and it took you 12 seconds.
Right.
I had a guy one time sitting at the bar, and he was ordering Fireballs, and he would, every time we'd do a shot of Fireball, he would take the shot glass and he would flip it over and slam it on the bar, and he'd be like, bartender, another shot. I'm like, the only people that do that are douchebags in TV and bad guys. Okay, don't do it again. He's like, why not, man? It's cool.
It's not cool.
And I'm like, you're not the one cleaning up my bar with all the sticky stuff. So
Will is a friend of the pub, and he also runs the whiskey program that does every third Friday. And you've been doing that now for 6 years?
7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
Just like that.
You have the triumvirate there. You have Kelce, who's the server, and you have Ryan, who's the bartender. And then
obviously the McMullen Brood is there in some capacity every.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then also you have your home now back up in northern Nevada where you have a nice private collection too, don't you?
I do.
How many bottles?
Changes, but right around 300.
Okay.
Of Irish whiskey.
Sure. Sure. And what's the name of the pub?
Liam's Pub.
Liam's Pub. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that name?
Actually, yeah. I had a very good friend of mine. We started out in the fire service together up in northern Nevada. He took a job down here with North Las Vegas, and I kind of followed him here and got a job with the city of Vegas. And a few years after we came down here, he contracted cancer. And his name was Bill Hardy. And as he was home, in hospice care, we got a chance to meet his family, his brothers, and such that we had never even heard about because he kind of kept that whole part of his life separate, and realized that his name was, they called him Liam growing up.
Okay.
Dad was, off the boat Irish, and his name was, William. We knew him as Bill, and but his family all called him Liam. And so when he passed, my wife gave me permission to turn our dining room into a bar, and I named it Liam's Pub.
I love. I've seen pictures of it. Obviously I stalk you on Facebook, so it's lovely.
I mean, there's a lot of man caves out there, but by man cave standards, and we're not calling the pub a man cave per se, but it is impressive.
Do you have running water piped in there, or is it just?
I do not. I have a sink in there that drains into a bucket because I still need to get some plumbing run. I just have not done it.
That's the one part about home bars that I always find interesting is but you can what the technology nowadays, you could actually buy a running sink in there if you really wanted to, but they're kind of expensive. Yeah,
I got to look into that. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, they have hand sinks, and it's kind of similar. It runs into a bucket, but it's a little more. You get hot water, cold water, and just something.
This segment brought to you by Home Depot and Derek Benjamin. Hey, let's crack a cool one to Liam.
Cheers to Liam. Oh,
thank you for your service, sir.
Gents.
Yeah, man. So can I ask you just a personal firefighting question? I've had a number of friends that are cops over the years, but one of the good ones that I've known, he'd always be like, "Oh man, it was like a 2-finger day." Like you'd get home and he'd be like, "Oh my god, I need a double shot because it was a rough day."
Yep.
Can you? Without going into too much detail, how many days do you get home and you're like, "Jesus Christ, I need a double shot of whiskey"?
So me and the guys on the job, it happens pretty frequently.
Yeah.
We work a minimum of 24-hour shift. Now they're on the 48s, but it became a real common thing after work on some of those long nights to where we do what we call beer and breakfast at my house.
Yeah.
We get off shift 7 o'clock in the morning. Somebody stops by Roberto's, pick up breakfast burritos, and we all meet at my house.
Heck yeah.
Which is quintessentially Irish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember the Irish Mexican War.
Yeah.
Irish Mexican War of 1818 or whatever it was. Remember?
Well,
1848. I don't remember. Somebody will be like, "Jesus, dear, it was 1832."
Autocorrect on history.
Yes. Yeah, because I know it's a rough job, and you guys are literally first responders, so you're there typically before the police even arrive.
Depends on the call. Honestly, not always. It's an equal one. If there's any chance that there's going to be gunfire, we're waiting. We're in no hurry.
Way far away.
Well, we'll let the guys with the vests and guns handle that one.
Yeah.
When we were prepping this morning, kind of circling back around to the whiskey program that you curate and put together every month, you were telling me about a relatively new distillery.
They've been around 7-8 years now, maybe a little bit longer. But they're very small, so here in the U.S., nobody really knows.
And you were telling some interesting facts while we were setting up that they're just coming into the state.
Yes.
They're also represented by Bill Foley. Yeah,
VGK brand new here in the States. They're represented by Foley Wine and Spirit, which is Bill Foley, the Foley of Vegas Knights ownership.
The owner, yeah.
Yep, he bought a stake in that from what I understand. And now that he's got it underneath his portfolio, we now have access to it.
As you do if you're a very rich person. You just add a whiskey company to your portfolio.
Well, and this isn't his first one. So the town I live in has a distillery.
Really?
That a local guy started it. It went defunct. He sold out and actually moved to Scotland. And it sat, and guess what? Bill Foley bought it.
Hey, why
And
not?
it's called the Minden Mill. And so now he is not just buying his own whiskey, he's making his own whiskey.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah.
So are you involved at all, or are you just kind of a fan of it?
Yeah, fan of it. I've been there. I've got a lot of friends, that work there. And
Okay, great.
yeah, no, it's a great place to go. I mean, they turn out a very nice product. All the products that are coming out of there now are from the previous owner.
Yep.
But very, very high quality stuff. And they're doing
So-
a good job.
Can I ask obviously you've been to a number of distilleries, but do you have a favorite?
So, boy, it's hard. Obviously Middleton. I mean, that's Mecca. If you're going to go to Ireland and you like whiskey, you better go there.
Now, is it this year they put a third distillery online on the premise?
So their second still house. Yeah.
Okay.
And it won't be online until I believe middle of 2026.
Okay.
But construction has started. Yes.
Okay.
I have commented my favorite Middleton was the old 21, the very rare. And they changed it about
Oh, the
15 years, 16 years
the
ago.
rarest vintage reserve.
Yes.
So that
Do you have one of
to
those?
this I had several. No, I say had
Oh no.
because we drank them.
Yeah.
And one of my all-time favorite whiskeys. Period.
Yeah. I mean,
Full stop. That was an amazing.
I've
whiskey.
probably had well over 100. Not a lot, but well over 100 Irish whiskeys, and that's still one of my very favorite Irish whiskeys.
I'm going to tell you, it's probably definitely in my top
It's so many.
5, probably top 3.
I wish I could find a bottle of that so bad.
They have an auction all the time.
Really?
Just got it.
How much are those going for now?
It depends on the month, but anywhere the lowest I've seen it recently is probably 450 euros,
Really?
up to about 650 euros.
Wow.
So you're talking anywhere from probably with the shipping and everything starting at $600 all the way up to $900.
I have one more unicorn, and it's not Irish, but it's Scotch, and then I'll stop asking so many questions.
Oh, no worries.
The Lafrogue 21, the Scotch whiskey.
21.
That one goes for a ridiculous amount of money as well.
Ridiculous. And I'm
My favorite
not
Scotch
typically a
whiskey.
fan of Scotch,
Yeah.
but a buddy of mine, big time in Lafroig, and brought a bottle for St. Pat's one year. Came to my party at my house when I still lived here, and he brought a bottle of, I can't remember what it was, but one of their high-end ones.
Uh-huh.
And that's like nothing you've ever had. I can see why you like that.
Yes.
Well, it's not. Everybody thinks of Lafroig as a Lafroig 10, which is you open it up, it smells like your hair just caught fire.
No, it's
smooth. We crushed that whole bottle.
It's sweet, smooth, salty, smoky, and it's literally
Not
like
overpowering.
eating. It's like have you ever had candied bacon? That's just the right amount of smoke. That's the same exact thing this whiskey did to you. Like it's like the best thing you've ever put in your mouth.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, but John Jameson was actually Scottish, right? Born in Scotland before he migrated over to Dublin
Yep,
to start the
absolutely.
distillery. Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't the Irish and Scottish continually fight over who actually invented whiskey? Like,
Oh yeah. Well, we all know it was the Irish.
yeah, but don't tell the Scotsman that.
We'll tell them that. We'll teach them. You guys-
Feel it.
What did you end up doing for St. Patrick's Day since we're 2 days post?
Actually, I was downtown on Fremont Street. The fire department, professional firefighters in Nevada, puts on a parade downtown every year. And then firefighter challenge games, competitions down on 3rd Street. They shut down 3rd Street right between the Mob Museum and the Experience. And get to hang out with all my buddies
You
all
ever
day. And
been to that speakeasy down there?
Many, many times.
They've got a distillery down there too, right?
They do. They
They
do.
produce some kind of like nothing great, but they have like flavored stuff. Like
Yeah. Do that. You can get a gin, a vodka, or no vodka, gin,
what's
and then
that
they do
brand?
others.
What's that brand called? Do you
I
know?
do not know.
Yeah.
Uncle Sally's.
It's called the Mob Match.
Yeah. What did you do, DB, on Patty's Day?
I did my typical, after having 15 years of working at McMullen's, don't want to say it's PTSD, but I I kind of avoided. I just got some Chinese food and watched Lord of the Rings. Laid low. Drank some vodka instead of Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
Anything to get away.
It's a distilled spirit.
I'll get back to it. Just a couple years off, right?
Yeah, I popped in there in the morning very quickly. I was telling Will this before we started recording, and I literally just did a quick pint of Guinness to do a video to put it up on the day. And I was telling him, I don't know if you heard this, but Mary was in there, her normal sass, and Steve Case listening. He'll appreciate this. She goes, Jesus, did you hear what the guy said to me? And I'm sorry if the accent, the dialect's wrong, Bill, but I go, no, what? He asked me for an espresso martini. And I go, at an Irish pub on St. Patrick's Day. Or you go fucking Egypt. But don't ask for an Irish or espresso martini.
You know what? The Irish martini that I saw going around, the Irish espresso martini was Guinness with you take a shot of coffee liqueur and Jameson, dump it in a shaker, shake it up, and then top it with Guinness.
And then continuing with all things pub on the day of St. Patrick's Day, exiling the snakes out of Ireland, I heard a little birdie told me that our very own Vegas Golden Knights were in there for a private party.
Oh,
really?
I don't know.
Yes.
When did that happen?
Sometime in the afternoon, evening. So
yeah.
Shenanigans was completely shut down for them, and it was very hush hush.
Well, you kind of got to, because I remember. So I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I'm going to toot my horn right now. Just say.
Can you horn your own too?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to toot away. When they get the Golden Knights.
You were a paramedic, sir. You tell me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to sell myself. But when the Golden Knights first started out, they won their first round of playoff games that first year, and a bunch of them came in, and they swept them. And me knowing that sports people are players are very superstitious, I'm like, guys. Now every time you sweep, you got to come in here and celebrate. And that first season, they swept every round except for the final round, unfortunately. And they all came in. And let me tell you, once the word got out, the place got a little bit wild with the ladies. As a matter of fact, the ladies love those guys. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We had to start playing security.
Yes. Shout out to not you, Jessica Educate.
He likes me. He does.
Yeah, sure. William Carlson, you're the one. You're the one.
Speaking of, just to the right here, I have William Carlson's the hammer from Hawaii from
Halloween. Costume party.
Yeah, he dressed as Thor, and he got we got him really drunk, and he forgot about it, and it ended up in the trash. So me being the eagle-eyed observer that I am, I grabbed it and put it in my
collector.
And I still want to get him to sign it. So I got one of these days go up to the National City Arena and see if I can get him to do it.
Well, they were just on a away game stand there where they didn't do too well, but they're back now as they go into the weekend. They're back on. I think they played Detroit back to back and a couple other things. Yep. But I was reading also that yesterday or 2 days ago that the UNLV hockey won their first ACHA national championship.
Yes. So
20 years in the making. Go UNLV.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's crazy that I know this is not related to that, but just the fact that their program's getting better. But it's just a cycle, I guess, And
then subsequently, I think the new athletic director let the Sun Kruger go away this week also. So he had 4 years under the helm. They were going the right way, but it's a put up or shut up sport, just like it all is these days.
Really.
Before we go away from the Irish component, do you want to say a little bit about the Teeling and have a sip?
Yeah, so I figured if I was going to come on an episode of Las Vegas Day Drinkers, and it is the daytime, that we should drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're going to bring an Irish whiskey guy on board, you should probably bring a bottle of Irish whiskey.
Yes.
So I brought a Teeling pot still. It's part of what's known as their Wonders of Wood series, where they've experimenting with some different cask finishes. And this one is finished in virgin Portuguese oak.
Okay.
Portuguese oak. Not used a whole lot, mainly because of the density of the wood.
So like a lot of other Irish whiskeys where it's previously like a bourbon cask, it's just like cut and then made to be laid down in that.
Yeah, so most casks are made of American white oak.
Right. Because
of the density. So you do get a fair amount of movement of the whiskey in and out of the wood, so you get that flavor, the caramel, the vanilla, all that with it. But it limits what they call the angel share, right? How much evaporates.
Yeah.
When you move to other woods, that changes. So with Portuguese oak, with it being a less dense wood, you get a lot more movement, but you also lose a lot more on the angel share.
What's the? I know the angel share, but what's the devil's cut? I forget what that. There's the angel's share and the devil's cut.
The devil's cut is when they use a process at the end to pull the whiskey literally out of the wood.
Out of the wood. Okay, that's what. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to do today? How much would you like your pour?
Whatever Will is willing to share with us.
Oh no, that bottle's yours, gents.
What?
This bottle will not leave this house.
Oh wow. Well, thank you. That's wonderful.
Like I said, I'm not a collector.
I will sit and savor it.
You heard it here, folks.
I don't know if I'll shine
Not
it,
only does he
but-
say it, but he lives it.
That's it. Once
He's,
again, the reason is, it's funny. You know, art is designed like that, right? You can look at it and you can appreciate it.
Sure.
All they had to do was fill that up with iced tea. And if I didn't serve it to you, you wouldn't know, right?
That's
You
right.
can't look at a bottle and go, "Ooh, that's good whiskey." How
Yeah.
do we know it's good whiskey, gents?
We
Have a sip.
just have a sip.
Sit, socialize, shine.
Here it is.
That's the motto.
Cheers,
Here
guys.
we are. Thank you for coming,
Take
sir.
a sniff. Wow, that's really nice.
In daylight, so tasty, so good.
A little smokiness, kind of like almost a little scotchiness, kind of like.
So, and that comes from the malt component. Even though this is a pot still whiskey, Teeling, when they do their pot stills, they make it a 50-50 mix of pot still component and single malt component. So that way you do get a little bit more of that Scotch style with it.
And there's still it's still triple distilled, right? Like Irish whiskey has to be triple distilled.
Does not have to be triple distilled.
Not anymore.
No,
I thought
that
I
is,
thought it used to have
it's
to be.
always, that's always been a rumor.
Really?
Has to be distilled twice by law.
Twice.
The tradition is a third time because we want it to be that much better than the Scotch.
Yes.
But the rule is twice.
Twice,
So we talk about the Cologne distillery. We mentioned them. They only distill twice.
You know, it's crazy how you learn all this stuff all throughout your career, but you always need to be refreshed because
Sure.
some of the knowledge slips out.
Well,
of
it's
your head.
lifelong. It's lifelong learning.
It's not necessarily knowledge. It's the tradition that's gone around that has now become the standard. When
Well,
it's not.
that's what I love about you and what you do is that you help bring the knowledge to people that wouldn't normally have it, but also you help maintain the knowledge as well.
Little known fact. I don't know if you knew this, Will, but it's from the Wonder of the Woods series, right?
Mhm.
You live here. That's what Darren called dating in his 20s. The Wonder of the Woods.
Yeah. I did grow up in Seattle, so
there it is.
A lot of hard oak girls.
yeah, but Douglas fir, like, come on, let's get resident here.
Let's go a little more topical. Big weekend, March Madness starts. I think they have the last dinner, like last month's night as they finalize the
So,
brackets before it all
Chris,
starts tomorrow.
what spot did the Jayhawks get in the Final Four?
7th seed? Oh, they're not the Final Four. It's all starts.
7 seed, 16, Sweet 16.
7th seed. It all starts tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be long in the tooth for the Jayhawks this year.
Yeah.
So.
Did the Bulldogs make it? Gonzaga?
They're 8 or 9 seed, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so they had kind of a down year also.
Yeah.
I kind of looked very quickly at the brackets, but we said this last week in the podcast, you got a lot of like non-traditional teams like the Auburns, Alabamas, the Houstons that have been coming up for like the last decade, but those blue blood schools, blue chips are just, they're not wavering, but they're just, it's NIL. So it's like, if Bill Self tells you something you don't like, you can go down and Bruce, what's his last name at Auburn, and say, come on board, let's go, let's make a run at it. So that's going on. Obviously, we just wrapped up. We talked about last weekend. NASCAR was in town last weekend. This weekend, you have a lot of comedy giants in town. You've got Bert Kreischer, who is the Machine. Have you ever heard that story? That's his bit. We'll talk about that.
He just hosted SNL, right? Recently, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
And then you've got how do you say his last name? Nate Bargatze, who is at the Venetian or Win. And then
Didn't
also
they
have,
do the beer medicine skit on SNL?
that was that wasn't Kreischer. That was the other guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And then you also have Nikki Glaser, who jettisoned herself to fame last year with the Tom Brady roast, and she's, I think, opening for Spudley at somewhere down there in North London Strip.
never mind me. I'm just enjoying this fantastic whiskey. Sorry.
So why not?
Keep
Why
going.
not? Keep going. Did you see, Darren, that the Southwest is losing one of its most favorite off-strip restaurants in early April?
Which one?
DW Bistro is closing its doors.
Oh wow.
Actually,
that is the European one.
It was, I can't remember the gentleman, the restaurateur's name, but it was a scene, and they were originally on, I think, Fort Apache, and then they moved into the Gramercy building, handful of years ago up down in West Russell.
Okay.
And you kind of went, and that was the spot, and you would go in there and have Bloody Mary brunches and everything. Coincidentally, I think they have a superhero themed event brunch this weekend. You can buy tickets for it. Yeah.
Interesting. That's more my jam. That's more my jam.
That closes up in
Superheroes and
early.
booze.
That closes up in early April, and then subsequently for all the Hawaiian folk, the Ninth Island population, they opened Zippy's #2
Really?
on Wallapai next week. Have you ever been?
I have not.
Okay, so kind of a Hawaiian deli.
Yeah.
And apparently the Hawaiian breads and all the treats and scones and whatever they do is really good. And apparently the chili is fantastic.
Oh.
So when I don't think about it, it's not busy. And when I do think about it, it's busy. And I was like, I'll try it again next time.
Yeah, no, my experience with the Ninth Island food's all been at the Cal downtown.
California, yeah. That's like the staple.
Mm-hmm. That's when I worked downtown, we were always in there.
Oh yeah, they used to have buses load up.
Oh yeah.
The Ninth Island would attend.
Everybody knew.
Or the Ninth Island, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We are the Ninth Island.
What's your best pigeon impersonation?
Pigeon?
Yeah, just in that with the slang they speak over there.
No.
That's my buddy Todd over in Kauai.
I was thinking of the pigeons from Animaniacs. Remember those? Remember those guys, the mobster pigeons?
Yeah.
What were they called?
I forget.
Yeah.
More serious note, I mean, right in the hood, and I probably was literally still up on St. Patrick's Day night at 2 in the morning. Right by my house is the Tesla Service Center that obviously got firebombed.
Is that crazy? The guy's made himself a political target, unfortunately, and it's not ever right to vandalize anything.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with somebody, take it up with them, not the people that work for them.
It was. I drove by yesterday morning because we were going to the grocery store, and it was a multi-agency application.
Did you have to put out any lithium-ion battery fires?
No, I was retired before that ever happened. Thank God. What a nightmare those things are.
Yeah. So I own a Tesla. For those that don't know, but I've heard that they require quite a bit more water, and they're quite a bit more hot, quite a bit hotter.
There are new technologies or emerging technologies coming out to help us fight them at this. But at this point, it's honestly, let's let them burn out.
Just let them burn.
Or a construction dumpster full of water and dump the vehicle
Completely in it.
Yeah, it's just, there's no good way at this point. But as I said, they are coming out with new technologies on how to fight those things.
Like a powder, those
different
exploding
ways to isolate it, because the problem is with those batteries is they're very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And you literally have got to get in there and cut them apart if you want to get them out.
Otherwise,
that's not safe. They'll blow up on you. So we're not sending people in there.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a way to extinguish them. One of the ways that we do, you can remove the oxygen, right? Well, the problem is they generate their own oxygen.
Yeah.
So guess what? They're bringing what they need to the table.
Yeah.
And it makes just
insane.
a nightmare. It is insane. It's one of those deals where the technology seemed really good at the time until you put it into practice and you realize, crap, now what do I do?
It's crazy to me because it's emerging technology, but it's really old technology. They've been using it in RC cars.
Right.
NASA's been using it for 60, 70 years.
We're kind of circling around to, even though you are retired, you can still go around the country and speak to stuff just like this, right?
Yeah, I still teach hazardous materials. As a matter of fact, next week I'm teaching at the World Hydrogen Association.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Houston.
Okay. I didn't know if it coincided with Dublin, so it was just a write-off.
Yeah.
Well, everything's hydrogen, so
Right.
you gotta talk about it sometime.
And then to edify Willie a little bit more, I mean, there's Barry with Sips and Stories, and there's a couple other guys. I know you have your relationship with the Crockett's at the Middleton Distillery. But, I mean, honestly, folks, he, in the Irish whiskey world, his name is known. So there's some knowledge being passed.
First crack at some products here and there, or?
Not normally, sometimes, but not as much as you would think. And that's mostly because I'm here in the United States.
Do you ever get some of those, a package with a little white label on it that says, try this?
It's not on the regular, but it does happen.
That's good.
Not as much as he was referencing a guy named Barry Chandler, who does a podcast, runs a business, Stories and Sips. Oh, and that guy gets everything all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys.
It's kind of fun, back when I started at McMullen back in the day. I kind of, a lot of people go in there, so every once in a while I get a little teeny, just a small bottle.
Yep.
It would have a white label
Yep.
on it, and it would say, "This is what this is." And
Yep, and not for sale.
yeah, not for sale. Try this.
I do get those on occasion, but not near as much as a lot of the, what do they call it, the influencer folks.
Yeah.
Do.
Well, you are an influencer technically,
Yeah.
but not in the social media sense. But
It's more micro, not macro. You know.
in the whiskey world, you are an influencer, but on the social internet side of it, not so much. But we can change that.
So-
Yeah, for me, that takes brain cells I don't have. So you guys know, this doesn't just happen. The amount of work that these guys went through to get this to go today was impressive. And that's when I realized that, no, I will never be a podcast guy. Because you got to be way smarter than me to make this thing happen. And it was impressive.
Oh, no, but thank you for that.
We should.
We can't have a Day Drinkers podcast without asking him, and I think we both know the answer. What is your favorite bar, pub, tavern to drink at in Las Vegas when you are day drinking?
When I'm day drinking.
Or evening drinking.
Okay, well, we got to qualify them because there are two. So my favorite pub always is going to be McMullen's. Right?
Sure.
That's I owe them everything. That's a great place. And before I ever worked there, I was a customer. Right? I mean, you remember me from way back. But for day drinking, the place that it used to be, Hogs and Heifers downtown.
Really? Okay.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
they're very.
they're very much aligned with fire department.
I was going to say they're very emergency services. For
Very much
I
so.
have always told Brian, and you can tell him I've said this. He's got those two giant display cases in the entrance right there.
Yep.
And I told him for years, I'm like, get firefighter patches, get police department patches, and put them in there.
Yep.
And it's still, to this day, empty. 22 years later.
Yeah.
And maybe you could rub them the right way and bring some patches in there. And
Did
just
you just drop the Johnny Gold reference? Rub you the right way?
Yeah. I'm telling you.
R&B legend over here, DB.
You know what? I've always felt that McMullen's is missing that fire. There's a lot of firefighters that do go in there, but
Oh yeah.
the organization, you put patches in there, you tourists in there, you let them know. It sells itself.
And it did. And
Because you guys are all very competitive too. So
not at all.
Oh, very much so.
What's extending across borders and oceans, and what is your favorite place to have a whiskey or a pint in Dublin when you're over there? And when are you going again?
Going again in May for a whiskey convention.
Okay.
So I got to go and work. It's going to be horrible.
Jealous.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm in Dublin, the Palace Bar,
Yeah.
bar none, every single time. It's been there 200 years. They just celebrated, I believe, their 200th anniversary was 200th anniversary.
I have yet to attend. I've not been to Ireland yet, unfortunately.
Oh, it's right at the edge of the Temple Bar area, so
Okay.
a bit of a tourist area, but it was always known as a literary bar because right across the street is where the local newspaper used to be published. So all the writers would come over after work and hang out there.
Nice.
So yeah, it's really, really an amazing
So
place.
the old Irish poets and stuff.
Yep,
Back in the
you
day.
got it.
Awesome.
Sam Beckett, Oscar Wilde.
What was the
Jimmy
one
Yates.
that you two filmed that in on that? Remember the Disney Plus documentary they did with David Letterman?
The pub? Oh, gosh. I don't remember the pub they were at, though, really.
It was their local wherever.
Well, they at one point, and I think they sold out their ownership of the Clarence Hotel, and then they had the kitchen back in the day. But I don't know if it was down in Dalkey, where Bono lives, or what. So
It was their local. I remember that. I remember I listened to his biography. It was in there, but I can't remember the name of it.
which you obviously, I mean, it's tourist driven because it's arguably one of the oldest pubs in Ireland, right? It goes between the Brazen Head, right, in Dublin, and then there's the one out in like Athlone. Is that
That's
right?
all Sean's Bar, yeah.
Yeah. So those two go back and forth, and who's the oldest? And we're talking like 1,000 years, right?
Yeah, both around 900.
Yeah.
That's great.
Pretty crazy. I got a couple of Irish buddies who like to drink at the Hairy Lemon in Dublin City.
Love the Hairy Lemon.
Yeah.
When I used to stay at a place right across the street from the Hairy Lemon.
Sounds like code for something else that I'm not going to say.
Yeah, so let's go back to this podcast brought to you by Winter of the Woods, the Hairy Lemon. Full circle, full tilt.
There it is.
Last week, as we wrapped up recording, fan of the podcast and fellow Kansas City, and Jason Sudeikis was on the Kelce Brothers podcast, New Heights, where we're drinking their beer today. And apparently one of them is a vagina. Thank you for that, Will. An Eagles fan across from me and a Chiefs
Oh,
fan
no.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Jason fan.
Jason Kelce all day.
I mean, he's awesome. And
So is this your first time having his beer?
It is.
Oh, nice.
It is. No, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is cool.
So it's Jason approved? Yep.
It is.
But I mean, both of those guys, obviously, he's already started, his next career within broadcasting and the podcast. So I think they've done a deal with Wonderly. So when Travis eventually, after he goes to try and prove himself one more season or maybe two, well, I'm sure do just fine post-retirement also.
I think so.
But Jason Sudeikis was on the podcast last week, another Kansas City boy who revealed on the show that Ted Lasso season 4 is now being written.
Woo!
And
The whole game's back, right? Well, he's the core group.
Yeah, and from the world's understanding, the only thing that we really know at this point is he will be coaching the women's team.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Ted will be coaching.
What could go wrong
What
there?
could go wrong?
This podcast brought to you by Climax Cream.
Do you think maybe it won't be in London this time? It'll be U.S. women's national team or something?
TBD,
Really?
DB, to be determined.
I love that. I didn't know that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was kind of if you're on the internets this week and, all the little, chopped up segments from the New Heights podcast from last week was talking about that reveal. And then I just saw, what's that?
Oh, just the sound.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And then I saw that they just dropped this week's episode with Ben Stiller. So did you check out the new episode? One of the things we do every week, we kind of like review shows that talk about bars, and you said you listened to a couple episodes. Did you watch Cheers season 1, episode 9?
I'm gonna not lie to you right now, Chris, and say that I did not. Although I did watch it about 6 months ago, so refresh my memory.
As we share a microphone, look into my eyes. Can't you tell I'm telling lies?
That'll be sweet.
Basically, there's a new woman living in Coach's apartment building, and he's quite smitten with her.
Oh, nice.
And unknowingly to Sam, that Coach is in the back room because there is a plumbing issue in the bar, and we've never heard of that in McMullen's before, right?
Yeah, not once.
Yeah. And
Super
while they all subsequently take their chances on the plumbing, Sam goes out and is quite forward with the new lass, which Coach has expressed to Diane that he is betrothed with her.
Really?
Yeah. And so funny is, because this is just kind of to the point, generationally speaking, even from 1982, Sam puts Carla in charge of the bar to go work on the bathroom. Diane comes up and orders an old-fashioned, a brandy Alexander, and a martini up. And Carla goes, 3 cold beers?
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, married.
Yeah.
I did see that. That's right.
And so years ago, segue to, I worked at a place called Barley's in Kansas City, and that was my local. And this was just after 9/11. I was laid off with my real job. And the GM at the time, his name was Lance, hired me and said, you have to serve first because we promote from within. And if you're in the service or hospitality industry, that's just kind of like 101. You just accept it.
Going on just a tangent real quick. I was asked 2 times last week. So, what other jobs do you have? I'm like, do you think I need 3 jobs just because I'm serving you? That's just stop, people. Just stop. I work 40 hours a week doing this, and that's all I need to do.
Did you tell me that you had Steve?
Steve who?
Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
Oh, he got it.
I know it's going to go.
He got it. He got it. A dad joke there, folks.
But yeah, you're the early 2000s before I moved out here. So the Barley's 91st and Metcalf, and shout out to that group because that bar didn't last for a long time, but it was a good time. And one of the girls that trained me was a girl named Caroline Milano, and I forget her hyphenated married name now. But she did exactly that. So she didn't really know how to bartend, but she would pick up day shifts behind the bar. Some gentleman of older age would come in and ask for a little more specified cocktail, and she's like, "I'm sorry, what is that, Bud Light?" And then he would repeat himself and
It's fairly common.
Yeah, is that Bud Light? And then the third time picked up on what she was throwing down.
When I first started bartending, I got thrown into it, and somebody ordered a Bloody Mary, and I was like, "How do you make that?" But I was 21 years old, so.
So overall, I mean, that was out of the 9 episodes so far for Cheers. I thought that was probably the one I enjoyed the most, where I had a different sort of cackle. And then Coach went back to things he did from his playing days in baseball, and whenever he thought he was going to lose out on the situation, he would injure himself. So I at the end of the episode, he fell down the stairs and got to go. And I think
And
that's
Coach, I'm gonna assume that Coach stole the show once again.
He did.
Did you know he was in? Remember last week we talked about like what he was in prior. He was in Raging Bull prior to Cheers.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm assuming that's part of how he got that job. So
Yeah. Gone too soon at 61. I was kind of looking
Yeah.
up some stuff at IMDb.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I mean, but life gives you lemons, and then Cheers gives you Woody Harrelson.
that's right.
there you go.
That's right.
Which is a good way to wrap up this episode. This was our first guest, Will Grass. Thank you so much for doing this, sir.
Thank you for the invite,
Cheers.
guys. This has been a great time.
If we've
Thank
ruined
you.
your moment, we'll buy you a pint.
Anytime. Thanks for the white whiskey.
Thank you. Sip, socialize, shine, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.